यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनाधीरावनचारी यमुनाधीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनाधीरावनचारी यमुनाधीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोधानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनाधीरावनचारी यमुनाधीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय श्री राधे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस Pravijakaacharya, Astotra Shri Śrimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, नाम आचार्य शिरा हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। सब प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्री वास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। निथाय गौर प्रेमानंदी। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Okay, so today, thank you for joining the class today. We're going to be reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 10, verse number 11. It's a complicated verse, this one. So we'll have lots of fun in trying to decipher the purports of Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. Please join in. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So the chapter is called Divisions of the Creation. Maitreya Uvacha Gunavyati Karakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadhanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat. Maitreya Uvacha Gunavyati Karakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadhanam Atmanam Leelaya Srijat. Maitreya Uvacha Gunavyati Karakaro Nirvishesho Pratishtitaha Purushasthadupadhanam Atmanam Leelaya Srajat. Thank you. Ladies, please. Okay, thank you so much. Let's do word for word now. Maitreya Uvacha. Maitreya said, Guna Vyatikara, of the interactions of the modes of material nature. Akaraha. Akaraha. Because this one then becomes the subject of a sentence, you see. Otherwise, then it becomes invocative. If you say Krishna, you're calling him. If you say Krishnaha, then you're beginning the sentence with the subject. You see? So every dot that Srila Prabhupada recorded in the books is meaningful. Should we try that again? Bhakti Swami said to me once, this was about 28 years ago. He said to me that he learned Sanskrit simply by reading Prabhupada's books. Srila Bhakti Swami Maharaj ki jai. So these are the reasons why he done the word for word. Okay? So, akaraha, source. Nirvisheshaha, very good. Without diversity. Aprathishtitaha, unlimited. Purushaha, of the Supreme Person. Tat, that. Upadanam, instrument. You see now the ma is at the end? So this now becomes the object of the sentence. You see, very different, huh? If it was upadanaha, then it would become the subject of the sentence. Okay? Atmanam, the material creation. Another object of the sentence. Okay? Now, instrumental. Leelaya. By pastimes. So instrumental means by, with, or through. The third declension of every noun in the language of Krishna, Sanskrit. Leelaya by pastimes. Then asrijat. Okay, created. Okay. Nice little class on transliterations. Sometimes we recite the transliterations, but not just for formality, but it's also Prabhupada's teaching us through the transliterations as well. And why is this important? Because soon we're going to read about the commentary by Srila Prabhupada, the commentary of Shripad Jiva Goswami, and the commentary by very old predecessor of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose name was Sridhar Swami. And they're going to unpack these little words to explain the focus of this verse. And the most glorified word in this verse is Leelaya, by, with, or through pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation, Maitreya said, eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. Purport. The impersonal time factor is the background of the material manifestation as the instrument of the Supreme Lord. It is the ingredient of assistance offered to material nature. No one knows where time began and where it ends, and it is time only which can keep a record of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material manifestation. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. Time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. The time factor is also explained by modern men in various ways. Some accept it almost as it is explained in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. For example, in Hebrew literature, time is accepted in the same spirit as a representation of God. It is stated therein, God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time passed unto the fathers by the prophets. Metaphysically, time is distinguished as absolute and real. Absolute time is continuous and is unaffected by the speed or slowness of material things. Now listen really carefully to just this one sentence. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. This will be the basis of today's Bhagavatam class. Haribol. Factually, however, time has nothing to do with the relativities of things. Rather, everything is shaped and calculated in terms of the facility offered by time. Time is the basic measurement of the activity of our senses, by which we calculate past, present, and future. But in factual calculation, time has no beginning and no end. Pandit Janakya says that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of dollars, or in that case, rupees. And therefore, even a moment of time lost without profit must be calculated as the greatest loss in life. Time is not subject to any form of psychology, nor are the moments objective realities in themselves, but they are dependent on particular experiences. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami concludes that the time factor is intermixed with the activities, actions, and reactions of the external energy of the Lord. The external energy or material nature works under the superintendence of the time factor as the Lord himself. And that is why material nature appears to have produced so many wonderful things in the cosmic manifestation. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse number 10 confirms this conclusion as follows. Let's all please recite together. Maya dhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena konteya jagadvi parivartate jagadvi parivartate. Om agyantimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sahavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today's class is a very, very long purport, and Srila Prabhupada is covering so many important aspects of science. And this is really important, because what you'll find is that nowadays a lot of people, they ask for evidences. And the Bhagavatam's culture is not like the Abrahamic culture. It's really important to understand that there should be respect for diversity. In the same way that Western culture has an approach towards faith, the Bhagavad also has its own approach towards faith. And it's very unlikely to be similar, because the foundations and the environment is totally different. Okay, and I'm sure you all understand what that means. So the aspect of faith doesn't really exist in the Bhagavad culture. It's a Western term that is utilized. And due to a lack of understanding the Bhagavad culture, devotees may superimpose Western darshan, Western views, Western understandings to explain the Bhagavatam. Then you get into a massive mess, and it becomes chaotic, and it becomes imperfect, and it becomes full of gaps and holes. The Bhagavad evidences its culture by science, by maths, and as Srila Prabhupada explains, by the cosmos, astronomy. It's a very different concept. Shraddha, we generally translate it as faith. But the word itself doesn't actually mean faith. Because in the Bhagavad culture, everything is super experienced. 2 days ago, one person asked a question to one lecturer. Prabhupada says, chant and be happy. But I'm not happy. What does that mean? Is Srila Prabhupada wrong? No. We are wrong. You all know, the Padma Purana explains that every time you say Krishna's names, especially this morning in the Kirtan, every time you say Krishna's names, his lotus feet appear on your tongue. And he starts dancing on your tongue like he danced on the hood of Kaliya. That happens to every one of you. Me as well. All of us. So Krishna, he appears on the tongue as soon as anyone says his names. Now Prabhupada said, chant and be happy. In Sanskrit, see, Prabhupada's foundation is the Sanskrit Bhagavad culture. So many times when Srila Prabhupada says things, if there is some understanding of the background, then you'll understand his import. So the word chant and be happy in raw Sanskrit translation is known as agyartha, command sentence. So if you were now to explain this a little bit, it basically means if you chant, you'll be happy. Make sense? Chant and be happy means if you chant, you'll be happy. So that's the actual answer. If you chant, you will be happy. But why am I not happy? This particular person asked 2 days ago. You were there at the class. Because you make offenses. Simple. If you offend the lotus feet of Krishna, who's taken time out from the altar to dance on your tongue, and with the same tongue you offend him, you won't be happy. So you can't offend Krishna. And Krishna takes offense. If you read in his pastimes, in the Bhāgavatam, in the Mahabharata, you'll see how Krishna takes offense. When somebody attempted, not did, when somebody attempted to disrobe one of his most dearest devotees, Lord Krishna, when he visited that devotee, he said, "The earth shall drink the blood of the Kauravas." That's what he said. He didn't say, let's just forget about it. The earth shall drink the blood of the Kauravas. And Krishna made that happen. So in this purport, Prabhupada is encouraging us to approach Krishna in an evidentially experienced way. And in this particular verse, Maitreya Rishi is describing to Vidur the secondary aspects of creation. And in doing so, he talks about a form of Krishna that is so great and so important that each one of us can have an interaction with, and we can also benefit from. And we're going to provide some insights from the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada to expound upon this very particular sentence. Time is astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed, change, and life of a particular object. To me, this means that every single object, the chair at the back of the temple, the bead bag, the individual sitting in front of me, all of us, this microphone, this seat, everything, you can understand its entire life duration and its experiences that it will undertake through maths and astronomy. Because maths and astronomy is in fact Krishna himself appearing as Kal, time. And we're going to learn how as devotees we can understand what this science means for us and how it can help us in our respective cultivation of our relationship with Lord Shri Krishna. In the translation, Maitreya Rishi is essentially explaining that eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. So every person is born influenced by the three modes of material nature. Now in Sanskrit, we understand that it means, it's guna, the word is guna, and guna generally means mode. It also means thread and strand. Because you've heard many, many times that the modes of material nature, they can bind you. And as they bind you, you're then influenced to act in one of three ways, or a mixture of ways. And that is why Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that prakrate kriyamanani gunehi karmani sarvasha. Sarvasha means everything. Everything, karamani, every activity is actually carried out by the three modes of material nature, to whom we surrender onto. The Jivatma surrenders on to the modes of material nature, and then it binds us. And then we think that our thoughts, our decisions, our interactions, and our responses are our own. But actually they're not. They're either part of the concept of sanchit karma, prarabdha karma, bija karma, or agami karma. What do these four things mean? We will discuss that in a few moments. Ahankar vimudhatma. Vimudhatma, one who is vimud. Vimud, as you know, also means foolish, but it also means someone who is in ignorance. Through ignorance, the Atma, the individual, ahankar, under the influence of false ego, kartaham, aham, first person singular, karta, doer, iti manyate, thinks themselves the doer. So what this basically means is that our life is not in our control. This is an important point for everyone to note. Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you think your life is in your control, but it's not. The moment that you desire to associate with one of three qualities or an intermixture of that, you are nothing other than a puppet in the hands of sattva, rajaha, or tamaha. Sattva means goodness, but the Sanskrit word itself means truth. Sat. This basically means that any devotee, any person who carries out their lifestyle based from scripture, they are in sattva gun. The word goodness I'm going to park aside, okay? Because it might not mean so much, because goodness is relative. So sattva means one whose life is based upon the dictations of the scriptures. Now the complete opposite is tama. Tama means ignorance, also means darkness. When the pages of the Bhāgavatam, when the pages of the scriptures are not open for you, they are closed for you. Your eyes are blind to the words of the Bhāgavat. That means you're in darkness, you're in ignorance. So someone who carries out their life independent from the scriptures, they are in tamogun. Now you can understand how many people out of 8 billion people on this planet are in tamogun. How many people carry out their life or try to carry out their life based upon Shastra? That is tamasic vritti uchyate. That is said to be one in the mode of ignorance. I hope you're appreciating, I'm just trying to break down the modes of material nature to provide context. Rajan means one who moves, one with ambition, one who wants to achieve things, one who does activity. That is an individual in the mode of passion, Rajagun. Neither following the scriptures or ignoring the scriptures, making their own ideas up. Okay. You make your own ideas up. I would chant this way. I will speak to devotees this way. I would eat this way. I would carry out my lifestyle this way. But not embedded in scripture and not ignoring scripture. And this can also be termed as sub-religious principles, secondary principles, which may not be entirely decoded in the scripture. That is Rajagun. So you have to decide which of those three we are today and which of those three we wish to become tomorrow. And it's very simple. To become in Sattvagun, one reads Bhagavat and tries to then imbibe that in one's life. And in the second part of this translation, Prabhupada explains that time, it is unchangeable and limitless. And it works as the instrument, lilaya, okay, instrumental. It works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. How beautiful that Krishna himself comes as time in order to carry out his pastimes in this world. And why did he carry out his pastimes in this world? In order to attract us back to his abode and show us what true love is, what true happiness is, what true satisfaction is. Now, what's important to note is that Sri Radha Swami, he explains that guna vyatikarakaraha. He says that the Lord assumes a form that is connected to the interactions, vyatikara, of the three modes of material nature guna, but he himself, despite interacting with the three modes, he is not subject to them. And this is Krishna appearing as the cosmic form, the Virat Purush. So the Virat Purush interacts with material nature, but is not affected by material nature. Why is this sentence being paraphrased by Sridhar Swami? Because he is explaining, in the same way that the Jiva Atma descends in the material universe from the spiritual universe on account of its misuse of independence, and it becomes entangled in the modes of material nature, we may assume the same goes for Krishna. An example, when Maharishi Bhrigu and his wife, when they were siding with the Daityas and they were assisting the demons in their warfare with the celestials, the Devatas, at that time, the celestials, they asked Lord Vishnu for help. And Lord Vishnu, with his Sudarshan Chakra, he chopped off the head of Maharishi Bhrigu's wife. And Maharishi Bhrigu then cursed Lord Vishnu that you shall be born on earth and you will suffer separation from your wife repeatedly. So individuals may assume this is why Lord Ram was forced to take birth and suffer separation from Sita. But in this verse, Maitreya Rishi is saying, this is not so. Naiti. When Krishna appears in this material universe, he does it to enact his pastimes, Leelaya. And that's why Jiva Goswami says that Leelaya is a critical term. Creation is not forced or karmically driven, but done out of divine will. Krishna upholds the Atmaram nature of himself. He's self-satisfied, not needing creation for any fulfillment. Shri Radha Kukunanda Bhagwan ki jai, Shri Samshmanavan ki jai, Shri Gaunithai ki jai. Now, why is this distinction being made? That when Krishna appears in the material universe, he does so for his Leela, but when we appear, we do so as a result of the bag of karma that we have brought with us. And that is called Sanchit. We all have, I have, maybe not you, I have a stock of karma, okay? A big bag of karma. And in those karma, the bag of karma, there are different seeds, okay? Bijas. Now I'll tell you, one seed is going to make me into a billionaire. The other seed is going to make me into the most poorest mosquito on this planet. In another seed, it's going to make me demoniac. In another seed, it's going to make me religious. So my bag of karma, Sanchit, has many, many seeds. And those seeds, Jiva Goswami explains in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, are as a result of impressions called aprarabdha. Those impressions began with, as the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, when we want to move Krishna from the center and place ourselves in the center. Bhoga, vancha, kari. When we want to now be the enjoyer. We see Krishna enjoying and we think, how about me? Maybe I would like to take his position. Let me play out his role. And Krishna, out of his compassion, Atha Purusho have Narayanat Kamayata Praja Srijayeti Narayanat Prano Jayate Mana Sarvindriyani Cha Kham Vayur Jyotir Apa Prithivi Vishwasya Dharini. The Yajurveda explains that out of love of Lord Shri Krishna, he then creates, like we build a house or we buy a house. It's difficult, right? You have to get a mortgage, you have to get a salary that's going to pay off your mortgage. You're going to have credit worthiness. I'm a banker, so I can tell you this stuff. Okay? You have to have a good track record. You have to have a good rating. You have to be able to demonstrate that you can service your contractual obligations when you take out a financial instrument, such as a mortgage. And that mortgage has various products associated with it. And those various products has various limitations. And then there is a small print. And in that small print, if you're unable to read, you could lose your house if you don't pay your mortgages back, if you default, if you go in on arrears. Such a complicated process to just make a house. Krishna, he built the whole material universe just for you and me. So we can try to exercise this desire of bhoga vanchakari. That, I believe, is what you call love. Nowadays, or in material interactions, when you renounce somebody, generally enmity is created, right? If you have an argument with somebody, or you ignore someone, or you renounce somebody, generally enmity is created. But Krishna, the all-perfected person, he extends his love in that circumstance. And he starts to create earth, water, fire, air and ether. Vishwasya Dharini, by which an earth base can be created. Dharini, to support you in your various ambitions in life. And what's even more important is that Krishna, having facilitated your bhoga vancha, your desire to enjoy, he then comes off the altar and expands himself as many times as there are souls who wish to leave him. And he lives in your heart, witnessing every activity, being that inner voice that you look for every day, every night, whether you're in the temple or at home. In every challenge that we experience, in devotee environments and non-devotional environments, that voice that you turn to is the same person on the altar sitting in your heart, guiding you. How is it possible to find anybody else in this universe that loves you more than Krishna? It's impossible. Even the concept of God falls short. That's why Krishna, that name is the real concept of God. It is not the other way around. It is not that God is Krishna. Krishna, one aspect of him is God. One other aspect of him is, as we sang earlier, he's the son of Mother Yashoda, Yashodanandana. Krishna, he devises all of this for us. And amongst this bag of karma, where there are many, many seeds, based upon your choices and your environments, then comes in the second aspect of karma, which is called prarabdha. Abdha means year, okay? Like Gaurabdha. But we are in a particular year of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth. Prarabdha. In this life, you will go through a certain number of those seeds in your bag of karma. And that will become your destiny in this life. Now, the seeds in the bag of karma, you can change. You can change, you can avoid, you can dissolve by practicing bhakti and other rituals and observances. But prarabdha karma, the karma which has been allotted to you to experience in this life, practically, you can't change. You will experience those. And when you experience those, for someone who surrendered to Krishna, even the negative reactions that we're going to face in this life, we use it to increase our devotion to Krishna, not turn away from him. But will you experience that? Yes, you will. Very unlikely that you won't. Now in the Bhaktivedanta Sindhu, there is a verse which sometimes isn't understood so well. There's a verse in the Bhāgavatam that explains that by carrying out bhakti, you can even get rid of your prarabdha karma, which means the experiences that all of you will go through, the diseases, the amount of money you're going to have, your friends, those who will love you or not love you, your mental state, your physical state, every aspect, your life events, your time of death. Every aspect of your life has been chalked out through the prarabdha karma. Now the Bhagavatam explains that the moment you chant Krishna's names or you enter bhakti yoga, even the prarabdha karma gets wiped out. But Jiva Goswami explains that the Padma Puran elaborates on this point. Because what happens is, outside of the 4 Vedas, when you read the Puranas and the Smriti Shastras, these are words of self-realized souls who may not always choose words that are at every time infallibly applicable. Therefore, some verses that are explained by speakers in the scriptures may be incomplete. That is why in the Bhagavatam and the Smriti Shastras, Acharyas write commentaries. They write commentaries to expand further on what this verse actually means. And this is required when great souls, their words are recorded in the scriptures in the form of the Smriti texts. So Jiva Goswami then explains that in the Padma Puran, it mentions a word called kramena. Kramena means one by one. And Jiva Goswami explains that the way we can understand this particular verse, that by performing of bhakti, one destroys their prarabdha karma, is by understanding that from the absolute view of the Jiva Atma's experience in this world, that moment is very insignificant. And he uses the example of a lotus leaf. He says, if you put 100 lotus leaves together and you pierce a needle through it, the piercing of the needle looks like it happens immediately. But in fact, the needle goes through leaf number 1 first, then number 2, then number 3, and so forth. It is in this way that the performance of bhakti dissolves our prarabdha karma, not immediately from the purview and the calculation of our life today. It happens kramena, one by one. And then the example is given about the individual with a bow and arrow. The quiver is where your stock of karma resides. The arrow, which is placed upon the bow, that you have not yet fired, is known as the third aspect of karma, called agami karma. The choices that you are about to make, that will give you a reaction either immediately, kriyamana, or in a future life. The arrow which has left the bow, which is called prarabdha, those you will experience 100% in this life. Now, in this purport, having explained briefly what the nature of karma is, especially the 3 types, Prabhupada explains that time is what activates the modes of material nature to give us our experiences in this world. And time is such that it can be astronomically and mathematically calculated in relation to the speed and the change and the life of any object. So what this basically means is that karma is the cause of embodiment. And time is the instrument through which karma unfolds. These 2 variables are the key aspects of this verse, karma and time. Based upon the interaction of these 2 elements, the time of birth or the appearance of an object or a person, it is never random. There is no such thing as randomness in the Bhagavad culture. This concept exists in Western science. Please don't mix the two. There is no such thing as randomness. The time of birth is precise karma. It is your entry point into this life, your time of birth. And as the entry point in this life, your time of birth is tailored to the prarabdha karma that you are experiencing, that I am experiencing today, the time of birth. Now we are entering into science, because maths, atyatishta dashangulam, the very first verse of the Rig Veda explains that it is through maths that one can capture Krishna. Because he is beyond your 10 fingers, but he is mathematically calculated. And you approach Krishna, and you can evidence Krishna through this scientific aspect of Jyotish. Jyotish is astronomy. Why is Jyotish called the eye of the Veda? Because it gives all of us an insight to what is going to unfold in our life. The concept of science in the scriptures are not meant to be borrowed from others. In the Western culture, we approach others for information. In the Eastern culture, you are responsible for cultivating that yourself. And if we are not able to cultivate the science, various sciences, then it is our duty to remain always mute, not to give an opinion. But what happens is, an individual who hasn't taken the time to cultivate and understand Vedic sciences, they have so many opinions on the Vedic sciences. I will tell you, right? In my experience, over 30 years, 99.99% of times, anyone who says the word Veda, they have never touched the Veda. 99.99% of times. Say the word Bhāgavatam, we can touch Bhāgavatam. We can speak Bhāgavatam, we can speak Bhāgavatam. Same as the Gita. But the Veda, 99.99% of the times, you ask that person, so what's the first chapter about in the Yajurveda? Ask that person, difference between Sama and Atharva. How many suktas are in there? Who are the Maharishis in there? What are the concepts? How many verses? What's the first syllable of the Atharva Veda? So people who haven't taken out time, they will have opinions on these sciences. And that's where the chaos begins. Because the Jyotish scripture, it is the eye of the scriptures, the eye of Krishna, to give us insights. It gives us a blueprint of unseen karma through the interactions and the positions of the grahas, the planets. When you look up, last night, I tend to do this at night time, especially when it's good weather. I was in Hong Kong only a few days ago, and the skies are completely dark grey. You can't see the sun, yet you feel like you're in a microwave. I was eager to come back to London with nice blue skies where you can see the sun. At night times, I tend to stand outside the home for a little while, and I just gaze up into the sky. I'm sure some of you may do that. And you see in the sky beautiful patterns, don't you? You see the various stars. If you focus upon the stars very deeply, you can start to see the patterns of the zodiacs, of the Vrishchika Rashi, the Scorpio, the zodiac of Lord Shri Krishna, the Vrishabha, the Taurus. Try it tonight. Just stand, you have to be patient a little bit though, huh? Take out a good half an hour and just stare at the sky, and you start to see the formations, the beautiful patterns of Lord Shri Krishna. The Vedanga provides a view for all of us to understand our unseen karmic blueprint. Why is it the eye? You will all know that there are 6 Vedangas. It's a bit like the children today in the UK are doing GCSEs. Right? Yours and mine similar. And they have to study so much for those subjects. But how much time do we take to study the Gita, the Bhāgavatam, let alone the Vedangas? The 6 Vedangas can be understood as the follows. The Chanda Vedanga, which is the science of meter, these are the 2 feet of Lord Shri Krishna. The Kalpa Vedanga, Kalpa means the science of worship, deity worship, homas, ceremonies. These are the 2 arms of Lord Krishna. And then Jyotish, the science of astronomy, are the 2 eyes of Krishna. This is why it's called the eyes of the Veda. Nirukta, which is the etymology, the dictionary, the book of terms to understand what the various words in the Vedas mean. These are the 2 ears of Lord Shri Krishna. And then the science of pronunciation, Siksha, are the nostrils of Lord Shri Krishna. And then, as we spoke earlier, the science of grammar, Vyakaranam, is the mouth of Lord Krishna. This is why the Vedanga Jyotish is called the eyes of Krishna. And the Jyotish has 5 parts to it, the 5 limbs. The 5 limbs of Jyotish are the Tithi, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana, and Var. The Tithi are the lunar days. The Nakshatra are the constellations. The Karana are the 2 halves of a day. And Var are the days of the week. These 5 limbs are the limbs of Kala, time. These are the limbs of Krishna's form as time. And the moment one appears, one can see the positions of the grahas and understand from the stock of karma what karma you're going to experience in this life. And in this way, you can actually uncode. So you can uncode your karmic destiny that you're going to have. Now, does this limit us? No. It in fact prepares you for your own battlefield. You will become aware of your limitations, of your weaknesses, of what you can expect in life, so you don't over-endeavor. You'll be more at peace, understanding how your life will play out, so that you can make choices and decisions that then are favorable for both your material and your devotional lives. And this can be mathematically and scientifically evidenced. In fact, every life event can be calculated. Nothing is random. Randomness means the gap of God. And science means the presence of God. This is why Vedic scriptures and Vedic culture, the Bhagavad culture, can actually be evidenced. It's not just something that we believe in. You don't believe in anything. It's all facts and figures. It's science and maths. We may not obviously study this ourselves, but the concepts are there. So there is the concept of the theology of astronomy, not the superstition of astronomy. In this way, I'm by no way advocating that we should all run off and get our charts made, etc., etc. No, not at all. What I am promoting is that there is science in the scriptures. And for one to understand one's own karmic life, you have to invest your own time to understand these sciences. Don't ask others. We never ask our friend to do our rounds. Prabhuji, please do 2 for me. Or 16. So why other important decisions? If we don't understand, you can accept and say, I don't understand. This is my limitation. But to criticize the science or to misinterpret the science is very, very dangerous. And the reason for this is because Lord Shri Krishna, he personally never ever goes against astronomy. This is an absolute misconception that Krishna and astronomy are opposites. Astronomy is Krishna's personal energy. It's the one thing that we use to evidence his existence. It's scientific. It's mathematical. This is why in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, in the 10th canto, 3rd chapter, very first verse, it says that Lord Shri Krishna, Atha Sarva Gunopetaha. Lord Krishna, when all of the qualities in the universe, Sarva Atha Gunaha Upetaha, when they were all favorable, at that time, Kalaha Parama Shobhana, when the planets, the stars were all auspicious, there was no inauspiciousness. Yariya Eva Jana Janmaksham, when his birth star, Rohini, was rising. Shantaraksha Graha Tarakam, when every graha, every planet, when every zodiac, when every star was Shanta, was in peace. At that time Krishna descended. He didn't descend at some random time and make it all work. Why? Because he is demonstrating the power of his own science. He's upholding his own methodology. He's upholding dharma in this way. And this is why even Krishna himself, he never contradicts his own sciences. In fact, in the Mahabharata commentary by Madhva Acharya, he says Krishna's name is Satya Sankalpa. Satya Sankalpa means he never goes against his own laws. We may think that because Krishna is independent, he can do anything and he can break any law and do anything. Yeah, sure. But guess what? He never does that. Because that will show that Krishna is limited. That will show that Krishna is imperfect. That will show that Krishna doesn't know past, present, and future. Because Krishna knows past, present, and future, because he knows the laws, because he set up the laws, he does it in such a way for always to be harmonious, never to be rebellious. That is what we do. In fact, it's Mayavad philosophy. Because we are the ones who are rebellious. Krishna never rebels. He's in harmony. Atmaramas chamunayo. He's always self-satisfied. So in this way, Lord Shri Krishna, he himself upholds dharma by appearing at auspicious times. And this is so important because the reason why we accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is because the rishis, the seers, and the acharyas, they used his birth time to ascertain the fact that he's God. And that is the same details that we use to ascertain that he or she is not God. That's why the science is so important. And it allows us then to begin our devotional life with Lord Krishna. Because it is the astronomy that enables us to understand that there is credible presence in his grace. And that is why Krishna always appears at an auspicious time. So to understand astronomy, as Prabhupada explains, is to actually understand how Krishna governs the creation with rhythm, beauty, and mercy. And that is why at night time, when you look up into the sky, you'll see the beautiful artistic hand of Lord Shri Krishna, not some randomness of the stars and the planets. It's Krishna's beauty at play. And by understanding these points, then we can be accountable for our karma. We can be aware that if we now start to act according to scripture, then the soul doesn't get bound. And that's the entire message of the Bhagavad Gita. Act in such a way that the fruits and the results are offered to Lord Shri Krishna. In this way, you will never get any reactions. And the experiences that we're meant to live this life, let them take place. I will still remain integrity. My integrity towards Krishna will never be compromised. And that's why happiness and distress that we're going to experience, Krishna says, be balanced, be equipoised, let it pass. Because ultimately, in doing so, your devotion will increase towards me. So this is my very small attempt to explain Srila Prabhupada's purport. on how the modes of material nature are activated by Krishna coming in the form of time, and time is the instrument by which we can all understand our karmic reactions. It is through time that Krishna unfolds our karma, and devotional service allows us to deal with it, whether it's good or bad, knowing that at the end of this, if we are able to revive our relationship in this birth, then we return to Him, and if not, it is left for another time. But Krishna will make sure that a devotee who surrenders onto Him, He helps. Only 2 days ago was the appearance of the Shri Radha Raman deity in Vrindavan, the beloved of Shri Vrindavan Dham. He is a deity to whom you cannot make a relationship with. He is a deity who chooses to whom you can then make a relationship with. He decides if you can love Him. And I would like to invite all of you to unpack the mysteries of Gopal Bhatta Goswami this Sunday at 4:30 in the Haveli. We'll be attempting a katha on the appearance of Radha Ramanji, his 483rd anniversary. The reason why I am so fond of Gopal Bhatta Goswami is because he asked the Chaitanya Charitamrita to be mute on his personality. Anyone who is that humble means that there's something special about them, that they don't want to be glorified and known for. And therefore this Sunday, we'll be presenting various internal and very, very rare texts that uncover the personality of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, how as a very small 8-year-old boy, he gazed upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and lived with him for 4 months. And in those 4 months, he was initiated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And thereafter, Mahaprabhu said to him, I'll join you in Vrindavan after your parents depart. And then after Gopal Bhatta Goswami went to Vrindavan, a few years later, Mahaprabhu departed. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami wondered, how can Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not fulfill his promise? He promised me he will appear and live with me in Vrindavan. Where has his promise gone? He has now departed. How can Mahaprabhu lie? How can Mahaprabhu mistake me? How can Mahaprabhu cheat me? And on Sunday, we'll be talking about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reappeared after his disappearance. When you look at the deity from the front, you see Lord Chaitanya. When you look at the deity from the right, you see Lord Shri Krishna. When you look at the deity from the left, you see Shri Radharani. 18 Thakur, Gaudiya Karene Atmashat. The Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Radha Govindadev, Radha Madan Mohan, and Radha Gopinath, they were incorporated in Gaudiya Vaishnava theology. But Shri Radha Raman Dev, he is the preeminent Gaudiya deity. And therefore, we'll have the opportunity to discuss this on Sunday. So please all come if you're available, 4:30 in the Haveli. Thank you so much for listening. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. I think we've run out of time, but any questions or comments we can quickly cover? Haribol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for giving such a wonderful class. Just on this theme of aparabdha karma, and I've often heard that our body is considered part of our parabdha karma, and I was wondering if you could help dissolve this misunderstanding of mine. I've heard that by taking to bhakti, practicing bhakti, and also that by taking shelter of a spiritual master, taking diksha, I've often heard that the spiritual master takes away our karma. And by practicing devotional service, like Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me, I shall protect you from more sinful reactions. Are we only talking about aparabdha karma and not parabdha karma? Because I've heard that if our prarabdha karma, which is our body, was destroyed or removed, that would leave us without a body.
Yeah. Such a good question. So at the time of initiation, so this is a very good argument to use against some other communities, that when you marry someone, there has to be acceptance from two people, right? Otherwise, you can marry anyone, right? I'm married to XYZ person. Similarly, at initiation, the most important element of initiation is where two people accept. The spiritual master accepts the responsibility for you to be a disciple, and disciple accepts the responsibility to treat the individual as a spiritual master. So once that sankalpa is made, then what you said begins. Then the process of freeing the soul from all reactions begins. You see? And the reason why I say that begins is because sometimes it may require many, many lives for the disciple and the spiritual master to work together, by which gradually, like the 100 lotus leaves and the needle, gradually, one by one, after life, one's karma becomes completely cleansed. Now, why is it important for karma to be cleansed? Because of sanskara. Sanskara basically means our impressions. And Jiva Goswami explains this in the word shishtachar. He says that if you have negative karma in your heart, your conduct won't be pure. Shishta achar. If your conduct's not pure, you'll make mistakes again and again and again. You'll offend devotees. You'll react negatively. You'll be angry. You may criticize. This is because of your negative karma you have. Your shishtachar, your conduct becomes impure. So therefore, for your conduct to become pure, by which you no longer accrue negative karma, that karma needs to be wiped out. And the spiritual master, through teachings of Bhāgavatam, by overseeing your cultivation of spiritual life, by making you, for example, encouraging you to chant, associate with devotees, serve, have prasadam. In this way, the karma then starts to be eradicated, and this is the responsibility of the spiritual master. And if the spiritual master has not been able to remove your karma completely, for example, because of our own independence, just one small raw example, the spiritual master says, sin no more. From now onwards, chant Hare Krishna. And after 1 year, we stop chanting. Right? That doesn't mean that the spiritual master is to blame. We are to blame. But the spiritual master has made a commitment. He will come back for you, or she will come back for you, this life or next life. So it's actually a long-term view. Equally, if this life you have already gone through so much purification in previous lives, I, for example, have personally seen birth charts that show that that person will not be born again. I have seen that myself. There is no second birth. There is no next birth. So in ISKCON, I know people whose charts show this is their last life. Not for many people, okay? But I have seen it myself. And when I observe, these are children, by the way. And when I observe these children, you think, wow, you can see that their conduct is quite noble. You know, for example, there's one person who I know, they feel bad in the pain of others. Sometimes people can actually laugh or ridicule or criticize in the pain of others. But this person, as an example, spontaneously experiences pain in the pain of others. And I think, whoa, I can see why. So you see, this happens. So you can be on various stages. Prabhupada's institution is a hub to allow a lot of people, which on the face of the earth isn't many, an opportunity to not come back. Because in Kali Yuga, souls don't have a place where they can uplift themselves. That's why he established ISKCON. One reason. For such divine souls who now need to enter into Krishna's abode, you come to ISKCON and you will have the opportunity. because I'm creating a community of devotees. I've invited Lord Krishna to come and descend with Shri Radha Rani. So I think I've answered some parts of your question. The second part was...
Whether the process of bhakti, taking shiksha, if that destroys prarabdha karma.
Yeah, sure. So this is a very difficult one, you see, because the reality is that in this life, if we are meant to, let's just take the example of disease. It's easy, right? Disease is easy. In this life, if you are meant to have an experience through disease, you will go through that. Okay? And that is because of your prarabdha karma. You can't stop that. Now, a devotee will not think that Krishna's unkind. He hasn't got rid of my disease. Because that goes against bhakti itself. Right? Bhakti means yatha vivadhatato, lampato. Whatever situation I'm in, I will remain faithful. My integrity to Krishna will not be moved. Throw anything upon me. A disease, take my money, take my people, take my family, remove everything from me, I will be yours. So you see, that's the mood of bhakti. So when a devotee, who because of their prarabdha karma, they continue to experience, for example, a disease, they see it as an opportunity to go deeper. In the same light, yes, in the very same birth, one's prarabdha karma can be nullified, if Krishna so desires. So you can have both aspects. So we don't limit Krishna when our prarabdha karma, our experiences don't dissolve. Otherwise, then that will be switching roles with Krishna. Right? We are always the kinkara. We are always in a service mentality. Krishna, whatever you do is fine for me. You know? What this actually means is, Krishna doesn't do anything for us. Na datte kasyachit papam. Krishna says, I have nothing to do with your piety or your impiety. With your sins and your actions, I have nothing to do with it. You are accountable. When you surrender to Krishna, He would decide whether you continue experiencing your prarabdha or whether He removes it. Generally speaking, in the scriptures, you don't remove the prarabdha karma. You continue to go through it. And there's many reasons why. Just one small reason. This is just like a very insignificant reason that I'm trying to explain. If in last life, somebody deeply hurt a devotee of Krishna, very deeply, and that devotee of Krishna was a pure devotee of Krishna, and in this life, by the prayers of the person that you hurt, you actually become a devotee. Happens. You know, you hurt me, I'll still pray for you. And you become a devotee of Krishna. You will see Prabhupada's books. Why should Krishna remove your reaction of hurting his devotee last life? So Krishna has to bear in account so many things. We have to be accountable for our actions because sometimes those actions may have really upset Krishna. Now the question is, when you go through that reaction this life as a devotee of Krishna, don't deviate. Keep strong. Talk to your friends, your devotees. Read the scripture. Pray hard, intensely, and go through. Whether that means death, Krishna will come to you as death to take you away, or whether Krishna gives you an opportunity to continue on in this body. So there's so many ways to answer your question, but it's very complicated in reality because there are billions and billions of activities that we do, and yet Krishna remains independent. Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. I have to go back to work now. I took a few hours off. So I wish you a wonderful day. And please forgive me if there's anything I said which was a bit not understandably so correct. But I attempted to share a few words. And let us continue on this week in our devotional services and our activities to each other. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. How are you? You okay?
How are you?
Oh,
I know you said you have to go back to work.
I stretched my legs actually.
But I do have a couple of things I want to
No, no
ask you.
problem,
But if you
no
have to go,
problem.
I can always speak to you later. I understand if you have to go back to work. I know. I'll get pinned.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you that. You know what you're saying about the Vedas is so true. That it obviously it's quite intimidating and challenging to pick. Like, where do you what book do you read? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, where does, and I'm not, I guess for like an open.
I also wanted to transcribe lectures. That's the Sanskrit, but it's not good bit. This would be like over.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare